Hello? Hello?
And
Are you gonna continue?
are you going to continue?
I thought I just had to say hello, but all right. I guess I'm saying hello and welcome.
That's how that
Hello and
works.
welcome.
That's how it goes.
Okay. Well, sorry guys.
Newsflash, Ginny
They
has
just
actually
said
not
that.
been on the podcast. We
We
literally
literally-
just covered this.
2 seconds before we went live, we literally just covered this.
All right. Anyways,
Great
now
start.
if you're wondering, hello and welcome to the Herondale Support, the Herondale Boy
Christ,
Support Group.
Just Ginny to do anything.
Ginny messed it up last
Okay.
time. She did it too.
I did mess it up. I'm sorry, guys. Anyways,
Take a second and collect
welcome.
yourself.
Welcome. I will collect myself if you all will stop interrupting me.
I'm losing my headphones.
Anyways, welcome to the Herondale Boy Support Group podcast. I am Ginny, the one who's messing it up all the time.
I'm Allie, who's doing my best.
I'm Melanie, who's just here to watch the two of them chaos.
And we're here to help, we think.
But are we?
Sometimes.
Or is it like Ghost Adventures, where they say that they're here to help people, but really they're just like, you have ghosts? Are we just like, you have Herondale boys? Do we help anybody?
Yeah,
We help ourselves.
I don't know about that.
Maybe.
Maybe
That's
there's
true.
catharsis
We're here to
in
help
talking about
ourselves,
it.
but like
It's
that's the
therapy.
point of it. Yeah, that's the point of it. But hopefully we're helping you all somewhat, maybe getting some of these emotions out too, or reliving and revisiting some of these things. Yeah, I don't know.
Listen, the Herondale boys have a grip on all of us. Whether
They
you
do.
are a Herondale boy stan or not, they have a grip on us because they are the Herondales.
Of course. Yep. Yeah.
How's
It's been
everybody?
another week, right? It's been another week. We're it's
doing
only been a
back-to-back
week
this
though.
time.
Yeah, it's only been a week.
Just
So
catch up.
just catching up. But that means we had to read more.
We did have to read more.
And we have to read
Well-
more again next week,
Oh, is it next week?
Man.
Oh man.
Well,
Well, are we?
yeah,
We didn't.
right?
I don't know if we're doing
It was
next week
soon,
again.
right?
I don't know. I haven't looked at the
Oh.
schedule.
We have to figure that out. Speaking
I
of
guess we
messing
will.
up,
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
speaking
But-
of messing
Yeah,
up,
don't worry about it. Follow us on Instagram.
as many
That's
of
where you're
you
gonna find that
may
out.
know. Speaking of messing up, as some of you may know, Allie and Ginny have their own separate gaming channel, usually
God.
triumphant, and
Oh,
they
God.
stream
Yeah.
Sunday nights after the podcast. So
yeah, we do
these
that.
two
Yeah.
lovely humans, when they went live last Sunday after our podcast, they went live on the Herondale Boy Support Group channel instead of their gaming channel, and it was
It's
very
fine.
funny.
It's fine. It's fine.
We're doing our best,
We're doing
That's
And I
all-
will
that's
not
all
let
we
them
can-
live it down.
Can ask.
Listen, too many projects. One computer to host them all on. It's fine.
Yeah.
Hey, it's fine. I'm just not going to let you live it down.
It took us 44 seconds to figure it out. It's fine. 44
Yeah, it
They
seconds.
were
wasn't-
like, "Why is this?" Ellie was like, "Why is this template wrong?" And I was just like, "I wonder why."
That's all right.
It's fine. Everything's
We're out
fine.
here doing our best.
Speaking of,
Allie's a Allie's a
we have-
one-person tech person, so Allie does her best out here. Okay.
I am.
I forget.
Our
I think there's
podcast often late, yes, but I'm doing my best. It's fine.
You were saying something, Melanie, about forgetting something.
no. There's a command that I made for Usually Triumphant. There it is.
Oh, nice.
We
Populate
don't
in the
use
chat.
it often.
We do not. We don't
But
talk about
if
the
you-
other projects, really, cross projects.
If you like Allie and Ginny, and you want to see more of them, that's their gaming channel. I'm usually in the chat because I have nothing else to do because I have no other friends.
Aw,
Aww.
it's sad. I'm not sure if we should be. I'm not sure if that's a sad aw or a nice, thoughtful aw. But
It's okay.
Oh, she loves us, or oh, that's sad.
oh, yeah, exactly. I was like,
The
oh,
world
that's
may
sad.
never
But
know.
yeah,
I mean, Ginny was having a conversation with her coworker the other day.
I did.
So-
Yeah, like yeah, we have a new person at my work, and I have two jobs, but by one where I actually go in person there, and so the new person was like, oh yeah, do your friends ever come in here and come hang out, blah blah blah,
Oh,
and
I
I was like,
remember this
I don't have any
conversation.
friends. Yeah, I was like, I don't have any friends. She
We had
laughed
this
thankfully,
conversation.
but Yeah, exactly. All my friends pretty much are online.
You did not say you didn't have any friends. You said that you had one friend and that you lived with them. So,
Yeah, I did say that. Well,
this is
after I
Allie
said I don't
Erasure.
have any friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is Melanie
After,
Erasure,
you, well, you're not local.
but I'm still a
right.
friend.
You are friends.
Well, yeah, I said I have no friends. She laughed, and I was like, okay, I guess that's the lie. I have one friend who I live with, but I don't have any other in-person friends here. I don't have any other local friends. So that's true.
Anyway,
All my friends
Lonely
are
is
on the
speaking of
delightful.
friendship,
interwebs. Yeah,
speaking of
all of us
friendship,
live our lives on the internet. So, speaking of friendship,
let's get maybe into talking about our favorite trio.
Our
yeah,
favorite
sure, we can talk
friends.
about our
Maybe more?
favorite friends and
Maybe more.
disloyal
Lovers.
bastards, you know. um, all right, so we are going to be talking about chapters 7 through 12, I believe.
Nope.
12 through 16.
No, 12 through 16. That was last week. Oh, sorry, guys.
7 through 11 was last week. Ginny,
Twas.
get
Okay.
it together.
Hey, yeah, I have
Jenny
the
can
book
drive the
now.
struggle bus
I'm
today.
looking
That's
at it,
fine.
but yeah,
Ginny does not have the brain
this
cell
is a
today.
that's why this is a 3-person podcast, okay?
Exactly.
So that we can all cover up when I don't have the brain cell. Anyways,
Do you want to
as
kick us
somebody
off with
else
our
pointed
summary,
out,
Allie?
As somebody else pointed out.
we're the spoiler warning is for
Yes.
chapters
12 to 16.
12 through
You know, it says
16.
it in the chat. You could look at the chat.
Yeah, I don't have it open. Sorry.
Which I will summarize for you now. Another summary, another party. This time, a masquerade. Tessa invokes the change to become Jessamine, and together with Will, who else, they respond to Nate's invitation. Tessa isn't sure what to expect, but it certainly isn't what she finds. People, downworlders, demons? What debauchery was Benedict Lightwood playing host to? As Tessa is reeling from the sight, Nate appears, fully convinced by her Jessie facade. Tessa learns that Jessie's relationship with Nate is quite intimate. Thrown and disgusted by his open familiarity with her, she redirects his advances, asking questions of her own to get information, including the juicy tidbit that Benedict Lightwood fancies demon women, and eventually insists that he get her some lemonade. A brief interlude with the fairy, who assures Tessa that she is not a changeling, and Will, who is relieved, Nate returns with a fizzy lemonade. Tessa continues to ask questions about not just herself, but the Magister's plans, and learns that Nate and Jessie have been married! In the nick of time, a letter arrives from the Magister. Yes, married. A letter arrives from the Magister.
Secret.
Summoning Nate to his side. Love a good secret marriage.
Secret marriage.
Secret marriage. Secret marriage.
At Benedict, or not at Benedict, but just like, you know, like.
Ginny, did you just say
What?
eggs Benedict?
No, at Benedict.
No.
I swear, I heard eggs.
But that would be hilarious.
I heard, I'm not
That
kidding.
would
I
have
heard,
been better.
I heard
Gotta get
eggs
married.
Benedict.
Better
I'm not
have some
kidding.
eggs Benedict.
You know who loves eggs?
Anyway.
Henry.
Just keep going, because we're never going to get through the summary at this rate.
Before Tessa can spend too much time reeling, Will appears, admitting he had faked the note. Startlingly, Tessa's change begins to fade. The pair escapes to the balcony where their inhibitions lower and kisses and touches are shared. Before things can get too hot and heavy, Magnus, the cockblock, Bane, appears, blaming lemonade on the pair's lowered inhibitions. Tell me that I am wrong.
Oh no, it's just
we
that's
don't
right.
hear,
It's so right.
we don't hear each other's summary before we start, so this is
That's
great.
true.
Magnus encourages them to go, and they're ready to take the advice when Will spies something across the way. A demon. A blue one. Will tears off in pursuit, as Magnus is left to convince Tessa that everything is fine and they should just go. Back in the Institute, Sophie is surprised by Tessa's disheveled appearance, but Tessa deflects and insists that Charlotte must be awoken immediately to be filled in on all Tessa had learned. Meanwhile, Magnus is brooding. He misses his lady love, Camille, and is lamenting over the love lost when one Will Herondale busts into the room, dripping blood all over Camille's lovely carpet. Will brandishes his find proudly. A tooth from the demon that cursed him. Surely now Magnus could summon the correct demon for a little chat. Unfortunately, the tooth may have had a poison, and it's not long before Will is collapsing into Magnus's arms. Once again in the Institute, Tessa spends more time pondering the eternal question, Will or Gem, before Jessamine awakes. The confrontation is emotional, with Jessamine having no remorse. She loved Nate, and he loved her. Tessa's insistence on the contrary is ignored. Charlotte appears, cold in the way she's never been. Brother Enoch is in tow, carrying the mortal sword. An emotional confrontation occurs, culminating in Jessamine's questioning holding the mortal sword. She betrayed the Clave, betrayed her family for a man she thought she loved and who could never love her back. But several questions plague Tessa's mind. Who is she? What of her parents? Jessie reveals the impossible. Tessa's father was a demon and her mother a shadow hunter. Moving beyond this impossibility, the emotional questioning continues, ending on an odd note. When Charlotte asks about the location of the Magister, Jessie replies, Idris, then subsequently denies it, all while still holding the sword that forbids her from lying. Brother Enoch confirms that there's a block placed in Jessamine's mind, and she is brought to the Silent City as Charlotte weeps. Back in Camille's home, the lady of the house has made an appearance. She lies about her activities, upsetting Magnus, who knows that she has been away with a human lover. Jabs are exchanged, feelings are hurt, all while Will is conveniently asleep on the couch. Conveniently asleep and groggy, Magnus insists Will is his lover, complete with a kiss that definitely does not gaslight Will. It's the morning after, and Henry is heartbroken. There, Jessamine, a traitor? As everyone is reeling from the revelation and passing around blame, Will's absence is noted, and on cue, he appears. Will is filled in on what everyone knows, and they begin to work out a strategy. To go to the Clave or no? How should they investigate? It is decided that Tessa will once again reprise her role as Jessamine, and that her and Jem would go visit Jessamine in the Silent City and convince her to write an invitation to Nate to meet. Before her and Jem depart, Tessa asks a promise of Will. Tell no one of what had transpired between them. Meanwhile, Miss Collins is on a date! Ooh! She meets Gideon Lightwood for a picnic, and after she gets assurance that he is indeed a good person who condemns his father's actions, the pair have a pleasant time. In the carriage to the Silent City, Jem and Tessa have a conversation about courting. Feelings are admitted and shared, and Jem shows himself as a man of action, taking the opportunity to kiss Tessa senseless before moving to sit on the other side of the carriage.
Wah, wah.
Smoochy smooch.
Are you ever just overcome with lust, where in the back of a carriage, where you just, smush the
Fictional
flowers
characters all the time.
I know, right?
Of course.
The young adult spice, man. Mwah. Jessamine is not doing well in the Silent City, but eventually relents and writes the invitation to Nate, when convinced that if he did love her, he would forgive her. Jem and Tessa depart, but not before Jessie calls attention to the smush flowers from smooching. The London Institute gears up for battle. Gideon Lightwood arrives to guard the Institute with Sophie.
Big brain.
Wink wonk. And our merry band departs for the warehouse where Tessa and as Jessie and Nate are to meet. In the warehouse, the Shadowhunters decide to split up to cover more ground, and Tessa meets Nate, who is not fooled by her disguise a second time. Nate reveals that he is not Tessa's brother, but her cousin instead. His mother was none other than Tessa's Aunt Harriet, and he a child born out of wedlock. Nate reveals an automaton carrying Charlotte's mother. He did kill his own mother. That rat bastard.
Oh, reverb.
It's fine. Nate reveals an automaton carrying Charlotte's limp body, and a fight ensues. Henry fights for his one love, and Will fights for his, throwing his body over Tessa's to protect her from the clockwork explosion. In the aftermath, Tessa runs to Nate's side. Nate is dying, and suddenly the brother she remembers again. Tessa says that she forgives him, though she admits to herself that she's not so sure that's true. Will is hardly doing any better, bleeding out onto the ground after taking the brunt of the explosion on his back, in protecting her. Jem notices that Tessa is injured as well, a wound on her head. This proves to be too much, and we end with Tessa fainting into Jem's arms.
Faint.
As you do, when you are but a heroine.
Yep.
Especially in the 1800s.
Exactly. When you are but a lady.
Yeah.
Which I've always thought was ridiculous, because, women see a lot of blood. This whole, fainting at the sight of blood thing is, really dumb. I'm sorry.
Listen, I wrote a note about that, so we could talk about it later.
It's dumb. I'm over it.
We could talk about it later.
Yeah. Well, I think we may have found the solution to getting through these summaries is that we acted out.
Yeah.
So if you're not watching the podcast,
I don't know if you saw, but Gene and I were
Melanie
just
and I
miming it out.
I would look up occasionally and just see y'all
miming it
doing something ridiculous, and I was like, great.
Yeah. So that
As
we
you
can
were.
be a part of it, but
Entertainment.
without interrupting it. Be reacting without interrupting it too much.
Yeah.
Because that's when we get so sidetracked. But yeah, lots of stuff happened.
Where do we want to start?
Oh man.
I mean, My first note is literally insert masquerade from Phantom here. So
Oh yeah.
face so the world won't know who you really are. Is that the words? I don't even know.
No, sort of.
I don't know
Some
that
of
Phantom
them.
song. Jenny, like, that's some of the words. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
That's some of the words.
It's
The
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 vibe.
tune is off, but I think the
The tune
words
was-
might be
it's fine.
correct in some order, somewhere,
I
someplace.
knew the tune wasn't totally there. Don't worry. I don't know.
Yeah,
Masquerade's a long song.
it is a long song. But yeah, like I said, if we had a nickel for every time that Will and Tessa went undercover to a party, we would have 2 nickels.
Which isn't a lot, but it's weird
Tessa-
that it happened twice.
Exactly.
Insert
It is.
Phineas and Ferb meme here.
And it's interesting. I mean, at least Tessa did mention that in their last section too. She's like,
She's like,
we did that before.
she's self-aware. She's like, that didn't go well
Yeah.
the first time.
It's the most like it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Let's just it'll be fine. We'll go. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We're just gonna go. It'll be fine.
Yeah, we learn at the party that Jessie has been feeding Nate information.
God
And they
damn
are
it,
married.
And my
Married.
heart,
With or with without eggs Benedict, it is unclear. However, they were married.
They were, and they were married.
I just, as we know, Jessie is my
Listen.
girl.
Yeah.
So, like, I knew this was coming, but it still hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh.
I wanted
Jessie-
so much better from Jessie. Man, it's just it's disappointing. And there's something
Yeah.
to say. I understand what she wants. I understand her resentment. I get it. But also it's been proven to her that like Nate's not what she wants. He's not the mundane that's going to take care of her. He's not
She's
She's just-
blinded by her desperation to have this mundane
Yeah.
lifestyle of having a husband and going to fancy teas and whatever, that she basically takes the first man that shows any interest in her, whether it was true or not.
Have
Interesting.
higher standards, ladies, please.
Interesting. Finding the first person who's different and deciding that they're your loved one forever and attaching all of your fantasies to them. Interesting.
I mean,
Interesting.
that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
The dichotomy. I don't know.
I mean, we've talked about I've applied that theory to Jem before. How, I want
Because
what's
he's
best
not
for
like
Jem,
other
truly.
guys. He's actually nice and sweet and not like. He's not Will.
Exactly. And I think
Well, but then do we think that Tessa is doing that with Will then too? Is a reverse thing? Like,
I don't
Just-
know. I think I kind of agree with Allie in that she's more like. She knows that it's more of just like she's so like desperate to not have feelings for Will that she's forcing feelings for Jem. I think that's kind of what Allie's getting at, but correct me if I'm wrong.
so. I think it's twofold. I think that from Jem's perspective, this is the first woman, so to speak, who is meeting him unaware or without all of these prejudices against him. And maybe prejudices is the wrong word, but like the assumptions about knowing that he's going to die. I think that Jem in a lot of ways sees Tessa as the first woman who can see him as a man and not as some
Like she met him
dead and
before
dying
she
thing.
knew he was dying.
Exactly. And I think that's important to their relationship. And then, yeah, I think Tessa very much sees Jem as the anti-Will, which, like, in some ways he does act as Will's foil. In many ways, he acts as Will's foil. But in this particular instance, in the way that's being presented, in the way that I'm interpreting it, because, of course, like, once a piece of media is out into the world, like, everybody has their own interpretation of it.
Right.
And no one way is correct. But in my interpretation of it, I definitely, yeah. I have questions about how that all works together.
So the thing is when you were saying that thing is like, oh, funny how, interesting. So I was wondering, do we think that has any application to Tessa's seeing Will as the first person in this new world of Shadowhunters that she is now privy to, and it's like, ooh, first person. Like, I know that they have chemistry that tends to be a bit deeper, but
I get what you're saying, but I don't know because of the. I only say I don't think so because of the way they interact with each other. of
So
their
Will had the
constant,
benefit of being the White Knight, which is a different trope of
That's
its own.
true. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
and I
White
think
Knight
maybe it could have
trope.
started off that way, but after the like, and maybe I don't know, but after the like pushback and the banter and the things he has said to her, I don't know anymore.
Fair, fair. Well, good. That's why I posed it to
Discussion.
the
So
Oh,
we
console.
do that
absolutely. A
sometimes.
good
The
discussion.
console.
It's okay
Yeah,
to
yeah,
disagree and to like
yeah,
start with an assertion and then amend that assertion.
yeah. And well, and it's cool because it leads us to, we were talking about Jem and Tessa too. That like she has moments with both of them in this section, in these chapters that we read. There's the smooching with Will on the balcony, under the influence supposedly, and then
Warlock powders.
uh,
Lower your inhibitions.
warlock powders. Yeah, and then there's the smooching in the
Gem in the
carriage with
carriage.
Jem.
Yeah.
So yeah. And
Um,
the thing is everything is happening so fast because I remember in that balcony scene with Will, she also was just like, I just kissed Jem last night though.
I
Oh,
know, right?
and I was like, oh my gosh. But just last night I was,
speaking
And then again, the
oh,
next
oh
night, she's back
no.
to Jem.
speaking
Exactly.
of, I think
uh,
we should. You know how we have the Henry on fire counter that's not getting much traction. I think we should make a counter for the amount of times that Tessa has thought about Will while she's having a moment with and or relating to Jem.
All of them.
uh, it would be,
So
yeah.
how many moments have
Our
they had
counter
now?
would have
Like
to
I
go
was
fast.
like 5 or 6. I don't know how many exactly.
I don't know. I just
I
think
mean, they've
about
only
the
kissed twice, but
yeah.
Is it only? I feel like it's been more
they
than
or
that.
3 times. I think they've kissed 3 times, maybe.
There's a little like cheek smooch happening at the end of
I
this.
counted one because she wasn't like, she was like, where did I count it? Hold on.
They've had moments beyond like kissing.
They've
They've
had,
had
yeah,
like
they've
moments of
had moments beyond
intimacy.
because that's like I've not been counting the moments because there's a lot of moments.
She was
Um,
like, they weren't like having a moment. I think she was just like thinking about Jem and their moment the other night, and then comparing it to what happened with Will.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, should we add that to the counter?
mhm.
It's just
it's
yeah.
it's just a lot, yeah. Um,
Go ahead.
Again,
Jen,
I
think you have
think
something
that
to say.
there's a way that it could work with everybody and the way that it could work with Jem and Tessa, but I don't. Yeah, not right
yeah,
now. It
I
needs a lot
wrote
more
this in my
time to
notes.
cook.
I don't get excited and like swooning over Jem and Tessa moments like I do with Will and Tessa.
no,
No.
that's true, and there's something to be said for that, like the different
They're
feeling
sweet,
that
and I
it
think Jem is
writes,
very
how it
kind,
writes.
and he deserves love as well, kind of thing. But I just don't
Yeah,
see it.
There's a moment in this section. I forget who says it, but they make the direct comparison of Will to Jem and like Will burning bright, like a bright star or
yes,
something, and then like Jem being a steady flame or something like that. And I
Yeah,
think that's very true. And of course, like
hmm,
there's merit to both, but
yeah,
the degree of intensity that exists with Will just isn't always present with Jem.
yeah. So yeah, that moment, that was Sophie when Tessa's
Oh yes,
trying
okay.
to ask me about her feelings, but that leads me to like I wrote down that like Will's feelings are like always so intense all the time, and like
Mm-hmm.
if there's that line where they're on the balcony, he's like every moment of every day since I met you, like I was just like, oh my goodness,
such a YA
so
romance,
It
much.
such
is
a
so
YA love
YA.
interest thing
Yeah,
to say.
I have wanted to every moment of every day since yeah, I was like, oh my. um and then what was it? And then and we were talking about how Tessa's always kind of thinking about Will whenever she's with Jem, or like, and sometimes she brings up like Jem when she's with Will too. But like in this moment, I remember like, so I wrote down that the kiss here is different because like, and she's thinking about the back to the first time that she kissed Will. So she's thinking back about Will again in her moment of Will, just like because it's different than the first time they kissed, of
Mm-hmm.
course. And so I was like, the comparison is to himself instead of to
Mm-hmm.
Jem
Yeah.
this time.
Speaking of kisses, Allie,
Yes.
I feel like you'll have a lot to say about Magnus and Will. I
uh,
literally wrote in my notes, oh, I know Allie's gonna have so much to say about this.
I, I don't have a lot to say. I think it's hilarious. I think that it's a great moment. I love Will and Magnus as characters, and I love everything about them, and I think that I remember this moment specifically because it's a lot of fun,
Mm-hmm.
and just the sheer and like rereading it and seeing it again. So when you read a book and then you step away from a book, you remember things about the book, right? And then you don't always remember what happens or how they got here. And then you take a minute and you see it back in context again, and it's hilarious. And so seeing the way Magnus goes from Camille, you're back to Camille, you're back to yes, I too have a lover. Look, he's on the couch right now. Yeah, that one, I'm sleeping with him. And the way, just the way that it all comes about, I think is
And then
absolutely
Magnus
hilarious.
gaslighting Will.
Right. It's
Come
like,
on,
everyone out
Magnus.
here gaslighting Will. And Jem's like smacking. Will's like, "Did you hit me?" He's like, "Nah." And then Magnus over, and then
He's like, no, I
Magnus
didn't
kisses
kiss
Will,
you.
and
The
he's like,
painkillers were
"Did you
making you
kiss me?"
hallucinate.
Nah. Yeah,
It
nah.
was just the painkillers.
I mean, Will deserved it, but also, I was like, damn. Yeah.
Let's see.
I mean, yeah, we learned a little bit about like Magnus and his
Yeah.
feelings about love, which it's interesting because um Camille is like makes this point of like, oh well, we live forever. Why do you think that she's definitely more
Yeah, she makes some
kind
point
of free
about
flowing with love.
living
She
forever and therefore like the love that they feel is different or something like that.
yeah.
Um Honestly, like Camille, she doesn't have much like that she affects in this. And I just remember her from other things that I'm just like anticipating that. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Repeat it again. Sorry, I missed
I just didn't say I was saying that
that.
Camille, she doesn't do a lot, I feel like, in this trilogy. And she's being like set up to be something more.
I mean, she's a catalyst in Clockwork Angel in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm just thinking about like later. Like very much later.
Oh yeah, and that's like one of the. You can argue the same thing's being done with Magnus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we're introducing
No,
this
agreed.
character way back when, who's kind of has this fringe involvement. These characters who we know are immortal, but have this fringe involvement in this story, but become much deeper and much more entwined with the story, much later on. And yeah, that is one of my favorite things about these books in particular, is like being able to trace back certain things. There was a line.
You can trace back family lines.
Exactly. And there was a line in what Magnus is quoting about the immortal lovers or something being chained together by a chain of gold, and I was like,
Yeah.
I
read
Oh, I
that
didn't
too. I was
catch
like,
that.
woo!
I didn't catch that.
There it is. Yeah.
A lot of these chapters in general, though, to go back to it, have to deal with Jessie and the fallout from her traitorous actions, I guess, being revealed.
Yep, we do spend a lot of time talking about Jessie and, yeah, the emotional turmoil that she has wrought upon the Institute.
And the emotional turmoil she's herself facing.
I hold grace for Jessie in the fact that she is a child. But, like...
Yeah.
Also, God, Jessie.
It,
you have to...
The way I see it... Oh, go ahead.
Like, you have to take accountability and, like, realize... Oh, my kingdom for an ounce of self-awareness, you know? That's where I'm at right now.
The way I see it is she has, very much so been manipulated by Nate. And she lost her family when she was very young. And her dad, like, I think she mentioned, like, her father, like, promised her, like, all the things that she wanted. Like, her father was not, like, wanting her to be a shadow hunter. Like, her father... I think, am I wrong? Like, didn't, like, her family say that... Okay.
Yeah,
so,
her family were not Shadowhunters. They had stepped away from the life.
They
and
left,
then Jessie ended up in the life because her parents died and there was no one else to...
So, I think
take
part
her.
of it is clinging on to her childhood of she was never meant to be a Shadowhunter, clinging on to her childhood, clinging on to her past, and
And we
she's,
see
as I
that in the
said,
Silent City when Tessa brings her baby Jessie from the dollhouse.
yeah, I wrote that
And we
moment
see,
down. It
Yeah.
was like Tessa and Jessie have not really gotten along, but for Tessa to bring Jessie this doll from her dollhouse is like Tessa knows what that dollhouse means to Jessie, so I don't
oh,
know. I just thought
exactly.
it was
It's
Yeah.
a nice gesture.
I mean, Jessie doesn't hate Tessa. She mentions a few times like how she like kind of thought that Tessa was like kind of her only hope in this Shadowhunter
mm-hmm.
Institute of like that Tessa's the only one who's like still a little bit different and not really a Shadowhunter and like maybe we could have been friends
But Tessa being
and
Tessa is super judgmental.
a bit, and
I mean,
she's intrigued by the
yeah,
Shadowhunter life. Well, she's
No, I
yeah.
meant
intrigued by
of
2 Shadowhunters, but
I meant judgmental of like the way Jessie acts, like of
oh,
like
yeah,
so like full of herself kind of thing.
Well,
She
yeah.
judged her for the dollhouse that was
she
a gift
did.
from her
That's true.
parents. So like
Yeah.
that's kind of what I mean.
Yeah,
I
Tessa.
don't know.
Yeah.
It's like when you get. It's like meeting somebody and wanting to be their best friend, and then you find out that you're just two entirely different people, and there's like that frustration and disheartening, you know.
I just I
Like when you were a kid and you met your parents had friends coming over and your parents were like, and oh, they have a kid about your age, and you're like, oh, this is great, and then they're just like, you know,
yeah.
you're so excited because you want to be their
No,
friend, and
yeah.
then they're just a different person. Tessa's a different person. She's
No,
longing for
yeah,
this
agreed.
adventure, and she kind of sucks at times.
All of
And
this to
so
say no, all this just to say that I maybe because I love Jessie so much as a character, I feel for her like so much like I my heart breaks for her. There's a
She's a
line,
tragic character in ways
yeah.
for sure.
There's something that Henry says and that I pulled out that he is talking about Jessie and he says there are some mechanisms that are so broken that they cannot be repaired. And he said Jessie is broken. Her family's dead and people are trying to make her live a life she doesn't want. Everyone thinks her attitude is just, Jessie being not wanting this life, Jessie being whatever, but it's really just she's broken.
there's so much hate and frustration in Jessie, and we see that the first time that Tessa takes Jessie's form, and just like experiencing that. There's a lot going on beneath the surface that um I'm not gonna say that no one else is privy to, but that no one else really acknowledges. Because I think that Charlotte and Henry understand her frustration, but I think they also view it from like the adult perspective of, well, here's where we're at, and here's what we got to do about it.
Yeah.
Which
Exactly.
is
Like
frustrating to Jessie.
like we know that all this stuff happened to you, but the choices that you make after that are up to you. So like this is, she's made the choice to have a snooty attitude about it or whatever
Exactly.
Like Charlotte
type of
is
thing.
heartbroken when she
Oh,
finds out that
absolutely.
Jessie's
Oh,
been
she is.
a traitor.
She is.
Charlotte
Because the way
loves
that
these kids.
through Charlotte and Henry's eyes, it's like that's their child. Like
Yeah.
Jessie
Both Charlotte
lost
and
her
Henry,
family,
yeah.
but she gained another, and yeah, Jessie just has always been fighting against that of having this other family.
And a part of Charlotte, correct me if I'm wrong, Charlotte feels like a part of her. She's like, I failed, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know
Oh
if
yeah.
she ever says that specifically, but that's definitely like the vibe.
I agree. It's yeah, like it was really hard. Like it was really like moving and tough reading the whole scene of the thing where they bring her in, they have to question her with the moral sword and stuff. Where while it doesn't hurt her, it's very emotional. Like it doesn't hurt her
Yeah,
physically. It's very emotional, and like
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte is like being the bad guy and like pushing and pushing and pushing to a point where Tessa's like, hey, maybe we should stop. And then like even as Eva is like, she has a block in her mind. We can't do anything about it. And then when they leave, then that's when Charlotte breaks
Absolutely
down
breaks down.
and yeah.
But we know Charlotte to be a very pragmatic person, because even later on in the next
Yeah.
chapter, they're talking about how she wept for maybe a few minutes and then was up
she
and
doesn't
back
have
at
time
it.
to mourn.
Have a little cry, wipe it off, get back into it.
Thank you,
And I
Chili,
wrote something down
from
about
Louis.
And
exactly.
I have
But
a
I wrote
little
like
cry.
I wrote
when
down
they
a note
visit,
who's like be like also like the times that like being a woman, how you're forced sometimes to do that, and she's the leader of this institution. She has to be the face, and she has to
And her leadership is
do
also
all
being
this stuff.
questioned.
Her leadership is
Exactly.
in question, yeah.
Yeah. So she can't have more than 5 minutes to have her cry. She gotta keep going. Sigh.
And then, during the whole fight, after Nate reveals that he knows it's Tessa transformed into Jessie, Charlotte's out for the entire fight.
Mm-hmm. But the way that we see Henry come in and swoop in, and it made me think back to that moment, that quote we mentioned last week, I think, about, like, some men only having that one love that they would do anything for. Something about that. And I was like, this is Henry's moment. Look at him love his Charlotte. And it's something that's been called into question, and here he is, like, we know Henry's not, like...
He immediately rushes to protect Charlotte.
Exactly. He's having this moment where he's displaying his love for Charlotte in a way that others understand. Because I think that Henry is bad at communicating his love. Charlotte and Henry are bad at communicating in these books. They don't communicate well. Yeah. They're speaking different languages. They have different love languages, and they're not, like, understanding the others. And so this is Henry's first moment to, like, his love is being displayed in a way that the others understand for the first time, and it's good. It's good for them. I was very happy.
Henry, his device actually works.
It did work.
Like it's supposed to.
It does.
As described.
And I'm very proud of him for that. Very happy.
I am too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was not expecting Henry to be my favorite character upon the reread, but I like me some Henry.
I'm definitely a Charlotte stan on the reread. Like, which I've
always been a Charlotte stan.
I've always liked Charlotte, of course, but like on the reread, I'm like, ooh, hello, Charlotte. I feel this.
I don't really remember why I always liked Jessie so much, but she kind of just did. And now rereading it, I don't know if I picked up on this when I read it for the first time, just picking up on and like tuning myself into more of her struggle kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of things happen, though.
The way that Jessie's portrayed, because we see her a lot through the eyes of others, and so it takes us a while. Yeah. So we see like this snooty, annoying, stuck up Pris, if you will, and then it's moments like when Tessa changes into her the first time. It's moments like when they're talking about the dollhouse. It's moments like when they're having the conversation in Sand City, where we see like Jessie for who she is, and for, the actual struggle that's going on just behind the scenes and just behind the facade.
I didn't mean to stronghold this episode to be a Jessie episode, but that's kind of what happened.
Well, ironically, it's funny because like Jessie and Will are always at odds, but Will does the same shit where he's hiding behind his friend. And Jessie's doing the same thing. Their upbringings
are very similar in that their families were not Shadowhunters.
Yeah, right. So in some ways, sometimes they provide some foil or some. I'm just like, you guys don't get along, but listen, you're not actually that dissimilar sometimes.
It's just like Gabriel.
Jem is the older brother who is just like, the two of you, I cannot. And then Jessie and Will are the younger siblings who bicker all the time.
That's exactly the dynamic.
Yeah. Yep.
Moving on to continue about this fight. Jem and Will are sort of smart in that, like, the giant automaton that they're fighting, they're clinging onto its back because it can only reach forward and it doesn't have dependable bending.
It was a
limbs.
Prototype.
Yes, it is. And I will give credit to Tessa in that fight of, she does change it in Nate and end up controlling it because of that.
I was writing about that. I was like, that's one way to make a fight even. They say pick up someone your own size, and so that's one way to do it.
I became their size.
Yeah.
And Nate dies out of the explosion after Henry's device works. Nate is impaled by some shrapnel and he dies. But not before saying, "You don't know everything I've done, Tessie."
Right.
Ominous.
Very cryptic.
It is very ominous. And I remember, so I was reading that part and I was like, I don't remember Nate dying this early for some reason. Or like, I was like, oh wait, is this real? Does Nate actually die?
I keep picturing I think it probably happens in the third book, and I just keep thinking it's happening sooner than it is. Something another fight that I just where another character dies, and I keep thinking that it's about to happen, but I don't think it is.
You see,
Yeah.
my fun experience rereading this is remembering that Tessa had a brother. Because as the, as the person who reads for character development and like not really for plot, I was just like, oh yeah, she does have a brother. That's the
Well, it
thing
makes
that
sense if he
happens.
nopes out in halfway through book 2 that you don't remember him as much because like, but yeah,
I feel
I don't
better
think I
about that
remembered him at
now.
first, but when we started, I thought he was like a nuisance throughout the entire thing, which maybe if he has caused problems before he died that we don't know about still, that maybe that's why I'm
Nate.
like, why is Nate gone so
I mean,
soon? I
he
mean, great,
killed
but also
he killed his mother, who
He
we
did
learn
kill
oh
his
is
yeah,
mother.
Harriet, Tessa's aunt.
Mm-hmm.
yep,
So
Nate's a rat
like,
bastard.
he
Fuck
is.
that
and
guy, man.
I wrote this down. I was like, as Nate's dying, we sort of see what could be the real side of him, where he's just like he does care
Yeah.
about Tessa because
Mm-hmm.
he says like you have to wear your angel like all the time. Like it's like he says it like desperately, like he's trying to protect her, and he's like you couldn't ever forgive me, and she's like I forgive you, and she says she doesn't know if it's true or not, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
And that's when he's like,
yeah,
but you don't know everything I've done, and like I feel like he's trying to warn her and protect her, and that's the real Nate.
And so interestingly
Outside of all
enough,
this manipulation.
as we see Nate falling into the old Nate, we see Tessa fall into the old Tessa
mhm.
as well, where she's, you know,
She's
patting him on the
thinking
back
back
and everything's gonna
on
be okay, and
yeah,
like making all
and
of.
she's thinking.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say she keeps thinking back on like when she saw him for the first time after coming to London at De Quincy's party, and then in the carriage, and him being terrified of Brother Enoch and the Shadowhunters, and that nurturing side of her again is coming out to her brother.
Yeah. Well, we know now that Nate, throughout most of we've seen him on the page, was an act too. But so I don't think we've ever truly seen Nate the way that Tessa has seen Nate until this moment when he's literally dying.
Speaking
But
of, I just thought
then,
of this. Oh, go ahead.
yeah. So then, yeah, we have Tessa reverting back to the old, because Tessa talks at length repeatedly about how her and Harriet made allowances for Nate all the time. It's like, oh, well, he's pretty. Oh, well, he's not all there. Oh, we just gotta forgive him for this, forgive him for that, and like all this stuff. So we see her falling back to that same pattern as he falls into the old Nate. Possibly for the better, we see Tessa fall into the old Tessa,
Yeah.
mayhaps for the worse.
Talking about Nate and this real side of him. Do we think Nate ever actually loved Jessie, or was she just a tool all along?
100% just a tool. 110%.
Yeah, I don't have any
I
belief that.
agree, but I feel like maybe like in the real Nate, there's some small part of him that actually did care and didn't want Jessie to get hurt. Just like in that small, like real part of him. Not saying that it was all of his personality or a major part, but I feel like maybe there could have been some small part. The way the real Nate cares about Tessa, he could care about Jessie too.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to sort out
I
the
know.
real Nate,
Mm-hmm.
just because like he is. Well, and we see Tessa has a lot of trouble sorting it out too, because she every time that he does a thing, it's terrible, and she's like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, he never cared about me at all. He's gonna give me over. He sold me for a corn chip, or like
Right.
like
One
No, I
corn
know.
chip.
That's why I
yeah,
was saying like I think she's mostly a tool, but I
it's
feel like maybe just
yeah,
trying to.
yeah.
I don't
It's
think
really
that
it's hard
Jessie
to
and
sort out.
Nate
Like
are around each other enough to build that relationship. I think that Nate only has true care for Tessa because there's that shared history
I mean, they
together.
say that um it was on their second meeting date, whatever you want to call it. It wasn't really a date. It was then he
yeah,
proposed.
right.
Probably on the sex couch that Jem and Will found in the office. But I love the bit where they're talking about the couch. So they go into one of the couches, right? They're going to the office. And it's like they're like, it's the only one furnished, and they're in front of this couch, And then they're just like, they both make faces at it. They're like, ew, this is probably where most of their courtship happened. And then Jem, like, pokes it with his cane. And they're just like...
I didn't even notice that part.
I was cackling.
And Jem's like, I didn't know you were so disgusted.
Yeah.
Jem's like, I didn't know you were so disgusted by the idea of courtship. And he's like, no, it's the idea of Jessie and him and Nate courtship that disgusts me. Or something like that. And I was just like, oh no. Which Will is also pretty badly hurt in the explosion.
He is.
Yes.
He's bleeding out.
Yeah.
And they can't use an Arazzi on him because then the metal will heal.
Yeah.
And like fuse to him.
Stay in him, yeah.
And you mentioned this in your summary, Allie, of Tessa fainting, and I'm just like, it's a cliche.
Tessa just had to know about the situation.
I was like, character doesn't know they're hurt until they see/feel it for themselves, and then they pass out. Like, I get it, adrenaline, but it's funny.
I had a little, of course she faints moment.
Yeah.
Yes, right. Of course.
It's not
convenient
a YA
transition
moment.
to next scene needed.
Right. Time skip or whatever.
It's not a YA book
whatever
where unless there's a fight or something and a character passes out.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How
Oh,
about
okay.
we lighten
Speaking
the
of...
mood? Oh, go ahead. You go. You have.
I'm not lighting the mood. It's
okay,
not
then
going
I
to
will
be
save my
lightened.
mood. Lightning.
Save it for after this because this is about to be a sad time too.
Oh, no.
So I was talking about like, you know, we saw that moment where they're confronting Nate and all this, and the thing is, everything starts to go wrong. This is one of those, you know, where we have this big old plan, and then the whole plan just starts falling apart, and then we ended everybody injured, right? So that's what happens. But
if I had a nickel,
they find
for every plan.
but they find this like they're going in, and then Will and Jem find this werewolf, right? Who is addicted to the infant.
I wrote this down briefly. I know what you're talking about.
I figured it was important to talk about.
Man, it was so intense. And it's really hard because like Will is like being angry, like his response is like anger, etc. And Jem is definitely seeing this as like, oh look.
So even before that, because we see this scene through Will's eyes, Will has this moment of panic where like his heart seizes seeing the
werewolf,
seeing the pale skin, the pale hair, because in that moment he's seeing Jem, and he says like, I've had this vision many times before, and just like is panicked until he gets up close and sees that obviously it's not Jem.
Jem is like, no, he's still alive, and that's sort of what gets Will to snap out of it enough to like see that it's not Jem. Yeah, that broke my heart.
Yeah, and we've seen, we're seeing Will and Jem moments, but I feel like in the middle we haven't seen as many, recently.
You're right,
yeah. In the last section we saw a good one where we actually have Will and Jem making up after Will's adventure to the
opium den.
Yes.
The infant den.
And the fallout of like Will actually understanding that his actions have consequences and affect people around him, like Jem specifically. So yeah, we didn't talk about a lot last time, but like I was like, it was good for them to have that moment. The other thing is like Jem's always like, I was always gonna forgive you, and Will's like, like there's no bad blood ever, but there's a realization that Will's actions have consequences outside of Will.
You hurt
even
people.
if he thinks he's pushing people away for the good of them, or pushing like there's still other sides of it too.
That people love Will is what he's realizing in that moment too, which is frustrating because he puts so much work into making sure that they don't.
And Will, we can see that Will loves Jem very much in this moment too, of just the panic and then the frustration and
and his reaction with anger towards the werewolf was interesting too.
And him being like, he doesn't like. Jem's like, I wasn't gonna say the blessing, I was just gonna close his eyes, and was like, he doesn't even deserve that.
It's a lot.
So Jem is seeing his future in this moment, and is seeing and is approaching it with a lot of care. And Will is seeing someone who made a choice, and is seeing someone who is buying up all of the drug, who is making Jem's time shorter, who is So they're coming at it from very different perspectives.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right. Right.
Are we safe to lighten the mood now?
Yeah, I'm good.
Go
I'm
for
good.
it.
Sophie and Gideon.
Sophie
Yeah.
and Gideon.
Yo,
They're so
Sophie
cute.
and Gideon.
Training.
They are.
Training, they said.
Oh, yes. Training.
And Tessa like,
Hey,
but
at
also,
least, yeah. Yeah, at least, what was it? Will has this moment where they're all talking about the plan. Will's like, "Are we gonna leave the Institute unguarded again?" And then Gideon's
and
like,
Gideon's
shows
like,
up.
"Hi."
Hello.
And
And
on
then,
Charlotte
yeah.
is
Sophie's
the one who
invitation,
called
no
him.
less.
No, I thought it was Charlotte.
I think it was Sophie
Well,
recommended him.
Sophie
Charlotte,
suggested. Yeah,
yes,
Sophie
yes.
Oh,
recommended
yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah. But I was even
Yeah.
talking about that moment where she meets him out on the streets, and he's got
Yeah.
the picnic basket. And
Right.
I wrote in my notes, I was like, "Oh, this little date, we need this in all the chaos." And then I was like, "Well, I spoke too soon because we don't see their date." But he's like, "What? Like, have I done something to it?" He's
What
so
did I
like worried
do?
about offending Sophie and like whatever. And I fully believe Gideon when he says that he has no idea what's going on. He was at the party, but like he didn't know what was happening. He only kind of was like, because he was in Spain, Madrid, like it opened his eyes to how his father is wrong.
Oh, exactly.
And I fully believe that Gideon doesn't know any of this and is not like manipulating and lying. Like he has no reason to. Based off of all of we've seen of him, he hasn't manipulated, he hasn't lied, he doesn't have a reason to start doing that now.
Gideon out here proving why world travel is important for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's important to learn about other cultures and open your eyes, open your mind.
Exactly,
Right.
because we heard from Will and Jem back before we met Gideon that Gideon's worse than Gabriel, and that, you know, and we've never seen that from him.
And maybe he was when
Right.
Will knew him, but now?
Exactly, but he's obviously changed.
Yeah,
He
maybe.
talks about his time being transformative and learning that, how his dad would say that, well, the law is just like guidelines, and like everybody bends it and everybody breaks it, blah, 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 blah. And then he learned that that's not the case, you know, when he got out of the world, and he learned that, you know, his dad's up to some pretty bad things, and he's got this mission to save Gabriel from it too, which is really sweet.
Interestingly, Gideon talks about how their dad Benedict sort of is of the mindset that women need to be sheltered and protected and blah blah blah. So their sister is unfortunately probably too far gone.
Oh, Tatiana.
Which we
She's
don't
something.
we only have heard about her
Something
passing
else.
people. But like she's sounds kind of like a spoiled brat.
The time for talking about Tatiana
Yeah.
will come.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, it
We will
will.
have
I'm
plenty
just like-
of time to talk
I'm like
about Tatiana.
I'm trying not to talk about Tatiana in that what we do know about her because we haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, Tatiana.
And then later when Gideon comes to the Institute and Tessa is like, "Oh, I forgot my angel," and she sees Sophie and Gideon, and
They're not
training.
the training. Yeah.
The training.
The training.
And then Tessa's like, "Who am I to tell Sophie to be careful or to judge her when I've been doing the same thing?"
Yeah, Tessa, please. Tessa out here like,
Yeah.
how could she?
It's
And
like,
then just like, oh,
and then-
well.
Oh, well.
At least she's self-aware. At least she's self-aware.
That shred of
Yeah,
self-awareness.
she's not always, and sometimes she, and then and so everybody calling her out on her shit too, because like Jessie's like, yeah, as if, or like with the flowers, the crumpled flowers, she's like, yeah, if you want to be more discreet, maybe don't wear like or whatever.
A hat when you're
A
gonna
hat
be
that
at
has
the end
flowers
of
that are
her.
so easily crushed.
Yeah, yeah, everybody knows.
Everybody knows, except for Will and Jem. Well, Jem probably knows about Will.
Yeah.
Will definitely is.
Yeah.
Will's too caught up in his own
And
bullshit to worry about what's going on with
Sophie
Jem.
admits,
He
that
is.
there was a
He
time
is.
when she did care about Jem, when she sort of hoped that that would be her, but no longer.
Yeah. And she encourages, and she's the one who says that Will's flame is like really bright, but then like Jem's is like really steady, and Sophie recognizes that Jem deserves somebody who loves him for who he is. And
she recognizes that Tessa cares about Jem, and she's like, he deserves someone like you.
But does he care about her? Or does she care about him enough? Is the question
Right.
I find myself asking.
She spends, I feel like she is trying so hard to convince herself to love Jem because he is the correct choice. which again, yeah, like there are people who are objectively
Correct choice.
the correct choice and are better, but it doesn't mean
You can't.
It's like
help
when
who
you're
you
playing
fall in
Fire
love
Emblem
with.
Three Houses. And Dimitri is
no.
right there, and you know that Dimitri is the right choice. But then if you look to the left, you got Sylvain. And then if you look to the right, you got Felix, and it's like, I know who the right choice is. But also, what if I
And
didn't?
you know who goes with the right choice? Me.
Good job,
For
Benedict.
anybody who
Good
doesn't
job,
know,
Melanie.
we have
Yes.
this is something that the three of us have talked about as well. A game, Fire Emblem Three Houses, blah blah blah. If you don't know it, it's very fun. You romance characters. Allie always romances Sylvain.
Yeah.
Ginny, depending on that, Ginny will romance Felix.
I don't think Ginny's actually romance Felix.
I haven't actually. I never
Oh.
have.
You just like Felix
In my
a lot.
brain, yeah. Yeah.
In the
Okay.
brain,
My
she
heart-
spends
my
a lot
heart
of
is
time
with Felix,
The point
but
still, the point still
I
stands that
actually
like you. The point still
chose
stands that
right.
you like Felix.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
don't
Like, so this, yeah. So I was like, so I'm doing the like the well, but like I did actually choose the gem in the game type of thing because he was the right choice. But yeah, and
Anyway,
like
that's leave it to
Yeah.
Allie to just relate it to something completely different.
Well, I almost made a Baldur's
Yeah,
Gate
well,
reference,
yeah,
but then
just-
Melanie wouldn't get it, and then I was gonna be sad.
Right.
So
yeah,
had
like
to
there
go with
are
the-
like
I
even in a
barely
lot of like
understand what's happening in
Yeah.
your own campaign.
well in media, like in a lot of media, like games, shows, or whatever, you always have that characters where you like attach yourself to them, but like over there is the one who probably will take care of you, provide for you.
And this is a common
You
love
know,
triangle trope too,
have
right?
the
You've
problem.
got
It
the
is. It is.
you have
Yeah.
the
multiple
right
times.
choice, and you have the
Yeah.
passionate choice.
Right.
Cassie Clare repeats this
Right.
trope. I don't know about in, what is that series called? Chain of Gold, Chain of Iron. What is that one called?
The Last Hours.
The Last Hours. I don't know if she repeats it in The Last Hours or in The Dark Artifices, but she definitely repeats it in Mortal Instruments.
Yeah, we get a little bit of it in
Yeah.
The Last Hours. It's a little bit more convoluted. It's not. I wouldn't say it's a true love triangle.
It's not the same trope. Yeah.
But I say it's
yeah,
definitely
different.
repeated in Mortal
But
Instruments.
yeah, I mean, there's a reason that we have tropes.
Exactly.
we like
I
them.
love a good trope.
We always we want to read about them. We get interested in them. So
Which that reminds me,
yeah,
I have to
it does
look
work.
out on our Instagram later because I'm a post. I did used a filter of which book trope I am, and the result was something. Keep an eye out. I'll post it later.
That's hilarious. Hilarious.
That's hilarious. I see how that's not a very Melanie trope. I see that.
Yeah. No.
God, no. Anyway, I'll post that later.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
boy.
Is there anything else that we wanted to mention?
I have.
I'm checking my notes to see because like the thing is sometimes I write down funny things too that I'm
I
like,
like
Yeah.
funny things.
I definitely write down funny things sometimes. I'm just like trying to see.
So I did
if
have something important to note.
Mm-hmm.
When Jem and Tessa go to the Silent City, Jem sends Tessa in first. And it's just like, you go talk to Jessie, woman to woman.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm gonna
What's
stand
that
out
about?
here. But then when he does come in, he's flushed like he's been running. So, what you doing there, Jem? What you doing?
Well, what's going on there? But
You want to fill us in, buddy?
I also think it's important to note that Jessie says she can see and or hear ghosts in the Silent City. Because I think that's going to play into
That's
her
a little
later.
foreshadowing. A little bit.
A little bit, maybe. Yeah.
But I was
Anyway.
like, we should maybe call attention to this so we could talk about it in a few months.
Yeah.
A few months. Oh, jeez.
Well, maybe not a few months. Probably like
It's
a
fine.
month or two. Jem likes them legs. When we see Tessa in boys' clothes, and Jem's like, I gotta
Oh,
go.
that's true. That's true. Jem's like,
Jem's like, I am leaving immediately.
that's true.
I had a little chuckle at
It's
Jem's
a
expense.
moment. I did have a chuckle, then I was like, oh, okay, I see.
This is what I have to deal with. Let's just leave it at that.
I didn't do it. Jem did it. Jem was like,
You're the one who pointed it out.
well, yeah, because it was right there on the page. I didn't have to do a lot of reading between the lines for that.
Whatever.
Sex couch was maybe a slightly, but only a slight one. Legs was right there on the page.
I am so done with. I can't.
Hi, and welcome to the Herondale Boy Support Group podcast. It's just Allie and Ginny. Now Melanie has left.
Something you said earlier, Allie, I will tell you after because it made me laugh, and I will tell you later.
Okay. I also liked the. Is this the annual Will Herondale is a lunatic meeting?
Right.
No, that you missed that one.
It's biannual, and this is not.
It's biannual. Yeah, and this is not.
And that's the title of this podcast on Twitch. It probably will not be the title of the podcast when it goes to other mediums because
I think it should be
Eggs
marriage
Benedict.
or secret marriage and Eggs Benedict Lightwood.
No, it should be Eggs Benedict and secret marriage. Eggs Benedict and secret marriage.
I think we need to add Lightwood on it, so it's Eggs Benedict Lightwood is what we're going to call it from now on. That's his name.
I love it.
You're welcome for giving you that.
Yeah.
Woo!
Cracking up.
Woo! Cracking. Like eggs.
Now, do you want that Eggs Benedict scrambled or sunny side up?
Oh,
was the other thing I said the cracked you up was Magnus the cockblock bane? Was that the
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Tell me
It's
I'm
just
wrong.
like, hey guys, what you doing here? Yeah.
It is not the first nor the last time that Magnus will
Oh, no.
I literally said leave it to Magnus to crash the party. I just didn't say it like you did.
Right.
It was hilarious because I was like, how am I going to slightly derail this summary? And so I just snuck it in there. But the thing is, we had already derailed for Eggs Benedict beforehand. And then we're like, okay, guys, we got to get back together. And I was just like looking at the next paragraph, knowing I'm about to derail us again. And I was like, here we go.
I wasn't sure if Ginny and I were going to derail you by our wonderful acting.
Yeah.
So I was over
That's-
here. I
think
held my
that's a
phone
good
over so I could stare at
solution.
it. So
Yeah. Nice.
I mean, I was a theater
All
kid,
right.
so
Well, sounds like we'll get back to more shenanigans in some time. We're not sure
at some time frame.
Oh,
We'll see.
what
does
what
this
week
mean next
it
week
is.
it's going to be you two acting out while I summarize?
Yep.
Great.
So, the end of the book. We're gonna read the last section,
Woo!
the last several chapters of this book, and then we'll be
Two
done
books
with
down.
Clockwork Prince.
Yes.
Yeah.
So join us
close.
for the thrilling conclusion.
The thrilling conclusion of the
Keep
second
an eye on our
book in the
Instagram
trilogy.
so we can figure out when our next podcast episode
Yeah.
is going to be.
We'll figure out when that is,
Yeah.
and we'll let you know. But until then, thanks for hanging out.
We have a Discord.
We have Discord. If you're catching this after the fact on Spotify or Apple Podcast or YouTube, then know that we stream live to Twitch every other Sunday at noon Eastern Standard Time. So if that's your thing, then you can drop by and hang out with us in the chat and say hello there.
We're also on all your
Yeah.
your favorite social media platforms,
We
Instagram,
are.
Twitter.
We are
I
not
think.
on Twitter.
No, we're not.
We are not on Twitter. We're only
have
on
a
Is
TikTok.
Instagram.
anybody
I
on
haven't
Twitter?
and TikTok and
We're not on Twitter anymore because it's not Twitter. It's X.
right.
Ooh,
Whatever.
We have a TikTok that I have not posted anything to yet, but will very soon.
we
Tumblr.
are on Tumblr. Yes, we are on Tumblr.
We are on Tumblr. Yep.
But yeah,
We do
The
technically have a
important
Facebook,
medias.
but we don't
the
use it.
important social media.
The important social media of Instagram, TikTok, and Tumblr.
Exactly.
So if you'd like to, follow us there. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Yeah. Hopefully we helped a little bit. Bye.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.